I just spent about 6 hours inside Crimson Desert, and I need to talk about it before my brain explodes. Because listen, when you watch trailers for years, your brain builds this unrealistic image. You start thinking, okay, this looks insane, but the real game probably won't feel like this. And then you finally jump in, and the first thing that hits you is this weird moment where your brain goes, oh, they actually tried to make all of this work. So instead of doing some boring breakdown, I'm just going to walk you through exactly what I experienced after 6 hours with the game. The combat, the controls, the world, the weird stuff, the impressive stuff, and yeah, even the parts that made me raise my eyebrow a little. Let's start with the thing that decides everything in a game like this: combat. And wow, the combat here is aggressive. Not just flashy, aggressive. The first thing you notice is the weight. Every swing feels heavy. Every hit lands with impact. When your character moves in a fight, it doesn't feel like some floaty animation. It feels like an actual person throwing their full body into every attack. And the enemies don't politely wait their turn either. They rush you, surround you, interrupt you, and suddenly fights become chaotic in the best way possible. There was a moment where I was fighting a group of enemies near a camp, and the fight just escalated out of nowhere. One guy charges me, another throws something from the side, I dodge, counter, spin around, and suddenly I'm in this messy cinematic brawl that honestly felt more like a movie fight than a typical RPG battle. And bosses, oh man, bosses are a different story. They're huge, dramatic, and absolutely not forgiving. The first time I walked into one, I had that gamer confidence. You know the one. I've played a lot of games, I got this. 30 seconds later, I was staring at the defeat screen wondering what life decisions brought me there. But here's the thing. When you finally start understanding the rhythm of the combat, it becomes insanely satisfying. Now let's talk about the controls. Because if a game this complex messes up controls, the whole thing falls apart. Surprisingly, they feel really natural. Movement flows nicely into combat. Climbing into jumping, dodging into attacking, everything connects smoothly. It doesn't feel like you're fighting the controller. It feels like the character is responding to you. There are a lot of mechanics though. Dodges, counters, grapples, different attack types, environmental interactions. It's a lot to absorb early on. For the first hour, I was definitely doing that thing where you press a button and go, wait, what did that do? But after a while, your brain starts linking everything together, and suddenly fights feel more tactical instead of chaotic. Now, gameplay elements. This is where the game really starts showing its ambition. This isn't just combat and quests. The world is full of systems layered on top of each other. Exploration matters. Environment interaction matters. Sometimes weather affects things. Sometimes terrain changes how you approach fights. Sometimes random events just happen while you're traveling. At one point, I was heading toward an objective and got completely distracted by something happening in the distance. Some NPC conflict, which somehow turned into a full chaotic encounter. And that's when you realize this world is not just sitting there waiting for you to interact with it. Things happen whether you plan for them or not. Now, puzzles. And this part actually surprised me. They're not everywhere, but when they appear, they break the pacing in a good way. Instead of constant combat, sometimes the game asks you to slow down, look around, figure something out. Nothing insanely complicated, but enough to make you stop and think. And honestly, after intense fights, those quiet puzzle moments feel like breathing space. But Crimson Desert isn't just fighting and puzzles. There are a bunch of other activities scattered around the world. Some are simple: exploring ruins, interacting with NPCs, discovering random locations. Others feel more like small stories happening in the world. You meet characters, see situations unfolding, and suddenly you're involved in something unexpected. I had multiple moments where I said to myself, okay, this will take 5 minutes. And somehow 30 minutes disappeared. Now the world design. This might actually be the most impressive part of the entire game. The world feels handcrafted, not just big. You travel through forests, cliffs, villages, mountains, and each place feels like it has a reason to exist. It's not just empty land connecting objectives. Sometimes you see something weird on the horizon, a tower, ruins, a campfire, and curiosity pulls you there. And a lot of the time when you go investigate, there's actually something there. That alone makes exploration addictive. But visuals are what make the world truly stand out. Graphically, Crimson Desert is ridiculous. Lighting, character detail, environmental effects, everything looks incredibly polished. Sometimes you just stop moving and look around because the scene genuinely looks like concept art come to life. But that kind of visual ambition comes with the obvious question: performance. And honestly, most of the time it runs surprisingly well considering how dense everything is. But there are moments where you can tell the engine is working overtime. Big fights, heavy environments, lots of effects. Sometimes things dip slightly. Nothing that broke my experience, but it's noticeable enough that optimization will definitely matter before full release. Now we need to talk about audio, because audio might be the most underrated part of this game. The sound design during combat is incredible. Hits sound powerful, weapons have weight, environments echo properly. Everything adds to the intensity. And the footsteps, seriously. Every step sounds like the character is carrying a mountain on his head. The sheer weight of movement makes every action feel grounded. But the real star is the music. When boss fights start and the music kicks in, it's insane. The soundtrack just explodes with energy, and suddenly the fight feels 10 times more epic. It genuinely pumps you up like the game is cheering you on during the battle. There were moments where the music alone made the fight feel legendary. Now let's talk scale, because this game is big. And I mean big. Not just map size, but content density. In 6 hours, I barely scratched the surface. Every direction I traveled, there were new encounters, new locations, new things trying to distract me from my objective. It's the kind of world where you start walking somewhere, and 2 hours later you realize you never actually reached your destination. And honestly, that's the best sign for an open world game. Finally, my overall thoughts after 6 hours. Crimson Desert feels incredibly ambitious. It's trying to combine cinematic storytelling, deep combat, open-world exploration, environmental systems, and immersive world design all into one experience. And surprisingly, a lot of it actually works. Because when a game makes you curious about what's over the next hill, that's when you know it's doing something right. Anyway, that's my experience after 6 hours inside Crimson Desert. And trust me, if the rest of the game keeps delivering like this, 2026 might be a very interesting year for RPG fans. Alright, I'm going back in. See you in the next one.